Welcome back. I'm that Halloween movie collector, Pat. Welcome back to episode 2 of my top 5 horror movies of a specific decade. Now, this is going to be a tough one, the 1970s, because there were so many great horror movies in the 1970s, including everything you see behind me from 1978. So I'm going to go through my list, starting with number 5. We'll count down, and I'm sure those that watch this channel and know who I am or just have eyes are going to probably be able to figure out what my number 1 is going to be from 1970s. Number 5, Black Christmas, released in 1974. I just recently did do a top 5 Christmas horror movies. I'll throw a link up here if you want to go check it out. But still one of my favorite horror movies of all time, not just 1970s, but I had to have it on this list because it's just great. It heavily influenced the movie of Everything You See Behind Me. It's just a fun, slow burn, creepy, stalking, atmospheric movie that just basically was a trailblazer for its time, for it's the way it was visually shot, the way the story was told, the innovative calling from inside the house, which was 7 years before When a Stranger Calls. It's such a great movie. I mean, Olivia Hussey was fantastic in it. I mean, God, the incredible legend himself, John Saxon, the late great Margot Kidder. That's such a great cast, and everybody blended together so well. You know, for a low budget horror film out of Canada, it was shot so well. And of course, you know, it was shot by Bob Clark, who was famous for A Christmas Story and Porky's. So you had a very competent person behind the camera, and really gave us some of that mood and atmosphere that we saw in so many other slashers and horror films that were to follow. So I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know who I am, and you probably have seen Black Christmas. You know, there's a mental patient who is hiding out in the attic, and little by little he creeps down from the attic in a sorority house and starts killing off the sorority girls one by one, which ends up in a big showdown towards the end with Olivia Hussey, which is arguably the first final girl. And what's great about it is you never find anything out about him. You only see his eye and the silhouette, so you never understood who he was and why he was doing what he was. It was such a great cliffhanger, because at the end you still don't know anything about him, and he's still hiding out in the attic because they never thought to check out in the attic. There's 2 bodies in the attic. There's the house mother, and there is the original first kill, sitting in the rocking chair, which is the iconic image on the VHS carton, where you see the girl with the cellophane over her face, which has been told about being in the Halloween hand in the Halloween poster, which is complete bullshit. It had nothing to do with it. But that's just the legend that image was used in the hand and the Halloween poster, and it was not. It's just a complete coincidence. There was a lot of social commentary in it. She's pregnant. She doesn't want to have the baby. She wants to have an abortion. So there's a lot of stuff, backstory. And they actually paint the boyfriend as the killer. And that's who they think is the killer, not realizing that he's still alive and he's still up in the attic of the house. Great, great movie. It's a staple for me every Christmas that I watch it. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. To completely disregard the remakes. Well, the 2006 Black Christmas remake had some redeeming values. It was a fun watch. The 2019 Blumhouse one is complete other garbage. Don't even waste your time. It's an hour and a half of your life you'll never get back. And there you have it. My number 5, the incredible Black Christmas. My number 4, from 1976, Carrie. The original Carrie, still one of my favorites. Such a creepy, creepy movie. Sissy Spacek was incredible in that role. I did enjoy the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. It was actually a fun watch, but the original Carrie is so creepy. The iconic imagery in that by the great Brian De Palma, who shot the film. Just a masterful horror movie and a stellar cast. I mean, you have Sissy Spacek in there. You have John Travolta, PJ Soles from My Beloved Halloween, which is the inspiration for John Carpenter using her in Halloween because of her performance in Carrie. You have Nancy Allen. Just what a great cast, great story. You have the great Piper Laurie as her mother, who was actually nominated for a Best Supporting Actress for the Academy Awards in 1976. It's what a great adaptation of. I admittedly have not read the John Carpenter, the Stephen King book. One of these days I'll get around to reading. I have read several Stephen King books, but Carrie's one I haven't done yet, so I should go back and compare the two. But told start to finish, such a great story, great visuals. It's a story of outcast girl who's just very shy, introverted. She lives with her mother, who is overly religious and just tries to hold her down and keep her from embarrassing herself or being called out or just being laughed at. And of course, she's just tormented at school by these bullies. And one couple try to help her out of her shell and actually ask her to the prom. And then, of course, the girl that was bullying was her friends are turning away from her, and she's really getting very vindictive towards Carrie. And they plan this whole thing where the most famous scene where they pour this pig's blood on Carrie at the prom, and then she just flips her shit because during this whole thing she realizes she has these telekinetic powers and she can do things, and it's just a complete bloodbath at the high school, which turns into a showdown at the end between her and her mother. She kills her mother. Obviously, this is a spoiler review, top 5, but it's an old movie. You haven't seen it, go check it out. It's just a great movie. Sissy Spacek was perfect in this role. I know what else to say. It's just an iconic film, and it lands number 4 on my top 5 list of the best horror movies of the 1970s. Number 3. We go back to 1974 again for the original, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, this movie haunted me until I saw it, because back in the day, the video store days of the 80s, I'd go to the video store, which was, local, and I'd just look at all the covers of the horror movies to see what else I can watch, because I was just fascinated with horror movies ever since I saw Halloween. And I saw the cover of that. I'm like, wow, Chainsaw Massacre. I got to watch this. And when I watched that movie, man, that was just a thrill ride from start to finish. It's such a gritty, grindhouse, eerie film. The way it's shot, it looks so, it's just oozing grit. And then, we have a lot of people follow suit with that type of aesthetics in their movies going forward. I mean, you can even trace it to last year with X, which has a lot of vibes of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie set in that type of atmosphere. But these group of kids are just traveling through Texas, and they're visiting sites of places where their family was and where they used to live, and they stumble upon this hitchhiker, and he's just out of his mind, and they realize that, and they get him out of there. But then they end up going to stopping at a house, and in there is this monster living there, Leatherface, who basically dresses up like in people's skin, and the whole family has a barbecue stand, and they're selling basically pieces and parts of people, and it's just crazy from start to finish. And you do have the one final girl, Sally Hardesty, at the end, because I guess you can call her probably the second final girl. And it's just a crazy movie, crazy visuals. It's just, what can I say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that has not been said before? I feel like it's not a very gory movie, because you hear Chainsaw Massacre and you think it'd be ultra gore. It really isn't for the time frame. It's really not. There's not a lot of blood in it, but it's just more of things you think are happening and you don't see it. And that's usually the things that are the most scary and the most eerie too. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original from 1974, I mean, the follow-ups, okay, there's a lot of remakes. It's such a very convoluted time frame now with all the different reboots and different, prequels. It's basically like Halloween. So I can't sit there and knock the franchise, because Halloween is just as bad these days. But go check it out. Great movie. Fantastic performance as Leatherface from the late, great Gunnar Hansen. So number 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number 2, 1973, The Exorcist. Yes, arguably known as one of the scariest movies of all time, The Exorcist. This is another real skin crawler, creepy movie. I mean, granted, it is a bit of a slow burn, because you have the whole thing about, the archaeology dig at the beginning, and then it builds up to, to an amazing ending in this movie. And Linda Blair as a child actress, if you haven't seen cursed films on Shutter, go check it out. And they do all the things that went a little awry on the set. And there was a lot of really weird shit that happened during the filming of The Exorcist, and specifically one scene with Linda Blair where she's supposed to be she's going up and down in the bed, and it just she really hurt her back. But go check it out. It's called Cursed Films. They did a lot of different movies, but the one on Exorcist was real interesting. But The Exorcist, girl, she's possessed by the devil, and the mother is trying to get help for her, has priests come in, and they do a complete exorcism towards the end by the great Max von Sydow, who is just a great presence in any movie he's in. You had the mom as Ellen Burstyn, who was actually nominated for Best Actress Academy Award for this movie, which is crazy because there's two movies on this list that are horror movies, and usually horror movies don't get a lot of love from the Academy Awards, which is a load of nonsense as far as I'm concerned anyway. But it's crazy. There's two movies on this list that have two Academy Award nomination for Best Actresses. You have Jason Miller as the other priest, and it is just a great, great movie. Unbelievable visuals. I mean, it was really groundbreaking for the time, especially telling the story of a little girl being possessed, and she's sitting there, all the curses that's going on and all the dialogue that she has for somebody at her age at the time. Linda Blair just did a fantastic job. And they did make a part 2. It's called Heretic, and it was complete garbage. Don't even bother wasting your time with it. I'm not necessarily going to form your own opinion. Go watch it, but it's not a very good one. Exorcist 3, on the other hand, was pretty good. That had some great stuff in it. And now Blumhouse is currently doing a direct sequel to the original Exorcist. It's supposed to come out later this year. Be sure to go check out my other video, which is my top 5 horror movies to see in 2023, because that's on the list. I'll put the link up here. Go check it out. I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do with The Exorcist. And here we are, number 1. My number 1 favorite horror movie from the 1970s is pretty much a no-brainer. Just look around me. From 1978, John Carpenter's masterpiece, Halloween. The movie that my life pretty much revolves around since I first saw it in 1980. There's not much to be said. A simple, spooky story about babysitters being stalked by a killer that is just told masterfully by John Carpenter, filmed incredibly. The mood, the atmosphere, the point of view of the killer, which admittedly was one of the things he was influenced by from Black Christmas. The stalking, the playfulness of him, which you don't see too much in any of the other movies, where he's playing with the people he's stalking. It's a slow burn from start to finish. You don't really see anything happen till the third act, because he's slowly but surely trying to paint everybody into a corner until he can pounce on them at the right time. The score is just as iconic as the film. It's just amazing, and the cast, you couldn't have cast a movie more perfect than this. Jamie Lee Curtis, fantastic choice as Laurie Strode. Obviously the daughter of Janet Leigh, that was also a selling point, but she was just a great actress in her own right, and we know that now, 40 plus years later. And Donald Pleasence, absolutely perfect. Now, admittedly, if you know the history of Halloween, they did reach out to Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and I guess we're so, seeing Donald Pleasence in that role for so long that we couldn't see anybody else in there. I probably could have imagined Christopher Lee, maybe not Peter Cushing. I think Christopher Lee probably could have pulled it off, but it was a perfect choice. Donald Pleasence. It's just start to finish a simple story of the boogeyman stalking teenagers and killing them one by one. And it's a very tame movie. I mean, it's very of its time. Actually, if it came out today, it probably would be PG-13, because there's really no blood at all in it, and there isn't too much violence in it. I mean, yeah, there's violence because he kills people, but it's not over the top like it is nowadays. But it's dated. It does hold up, but you show it to some of the younger generation. Like, I was all excited when I first showed my kids. I said, "Dad, come watch Daddy's favorite movie of all time," and they're like, "Yeah, it's good," but they weren't blown away like I was, because you got to remember back in 1980 when I saw it, 8-year-old kid, and I was like, wow. And the movie landscape was a much different landscape. You didn't see stuff like this. It was out of the ordinary. So it kind of scared us more. You didn't know anything about it, because nowadays, with the age of social media, there's no secrets about anything. You can find out about anything, and you're so desensitized to seeing everything. But it's just, for me, it is just the perfect movie, start to finish. As you can see, I love my Michael Myers. I do love a lot of the movies in there in the canon. I'm not so happy with the way they chopped it up, and there's so many different timelines, and it's gotten a little convoluted over the years. So now, after Halloween ends, which was very divisive, we're waiting to see where this franchise goes. I hope they go with the anthology TV route, like they're doing with Crystal Lake Memories, where they did with Chucky. Be cool to have something like that. The Halloween Ends Corey Cunningham story would have been perfect as an anthology episode. It didn't have to be in the trilogy ending, because it did keep me engaged, and I was interested in it, but it just did not belong. But I'm not going down a rabbit hole with a Halloween Ends rant on this. Just simply, easily, hands down, my favorite slasher, my favorite movie of all time, but my number one horror movie from the 1970s, John Carpenter's Halloween. So those are my top 5 horror movies of the 1970s. Let me know your top 5. Comment below. Make sure you hit that like button. It helps people find this channel. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends, tell your family. Come check out that Halloween Movie Collectors YouTube channel, and hopefully you'll find some fun content, because there'll be a lot more going on in this channel. I'm trying to put out a lot more now as it is. But be sure, let me know. Comment below, because there is a lot. This was not an easy task, because there was a lot of good horror movies that came out in the 1970s. And I think I mentioned on the one when I did my top 5 on the 1960s, I might do part Bs of these, because top 10s are easy to do. There's less whittling down. So I thought top 5s were a lot more difficult to do, because you would leave off a lot. Maybe I'll do part Bs to these, after I go through the decades, because 1980s is going to be another one that's going to be real tough, because there's a lot of horror movies in the 1980s that I really, really love. I mean, come on, you have Friday the 13th, you have Nightmare on Elm Street, you have Chucky. There's 3 right there that'll probably be on the list, depending on which version of them I put on there, because they do have many sequels, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the first movie, because in those franchises, I can tell you one off the bat that the first movie is nowhere near my favorite movie, if you know my history with Friday the 13th. But there'll be more stuff coming out. Be sure to let me know down below. If you're interested in collectibles or Halloween collectibles in general, make sure you go check out my Instagram page, which is at that Halloween Movie Collector, where my collection is. I post daily, put updates about this channel on there, and it's just a lot of fun. If you're interested in collectibles and other horror stuff, just go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Also, be sure to check out that Halloween Movie Collector on Twitter. I do have a Twitter page where I do post basically what's going on in the channel, when new stuff is coming up. So be sure to go check that out as well. You can also find me on Facebook, where I have my Halloween and Michael Myers Collectors Group, which collectors group I started a few years back for all things Halloween, from buying, selling, and trading collectibles, information, just anything about Halloween. It's in that group. Go check it out. Good group of people. And coming probably in the next few weeks, we were doing the Halloween Collectors podcast, which as of now is going to be on hold for a bit. For everybody's just taking care of some other business right now, family wise and personal wise. So the Halloween Collectors podcast is going to be on hiatus for a while. But I will be the next week or two announcing a new podcast on this channel with some friends of mine, and I'll reveal a little bit more when we get closer to that. So be on the lookout for that. If you like the Halloween Collectors podcast, it's going to be in the same vein as that, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. There you have it, my top 5 horror movies of the 1970s. Wasn't as easy as you think, and I might do a part B, because there are a lot more movies that I had to leave on the cutting room floor here, and some really good movies too. One of them off the bat, I'm sure I'll get some hate for, like, how did you not include Jaws? I love Jaws, but it was between Jaws and Black Christmas, and while Jaws is iconic and it's a blockbuster and I do love it, man, I'm sorry, man, I love my Black Christmas. So Jaws was going to be number 5, but I went the Black Christmas route. For those that know me, know my love for Black Christmas. But thanks for watching. Be sure, like I said, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that like button. It helps people find this channel. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody about the channel. Say that Halloween Movie Collector, that crazy bald guy. Go check out his channel. There's a lot of cool shit. And hopefully you think it's cool shit, and you'll come back and check me out for my top 5 horror movies of the 1980s, which probably in the next week or so, I'll have that out too as well. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.